Devins Toys is one of the world's first AI-powered vibrators. The vibrator that has sensors on it predicts in real time if you're closer to or further away from the big you-know-what, and adjusts dynamically to help you to get a stronger orgasm.
How does Devin allow women to explore unlocking new pleasure?
For the first time in history, on a device, we can now optimize the experience completely for your pleasure. Orgasms are so personal. Before technology, the majority of women actually weren't having that great of orgasmic experiences.
Because we are overly conditioned to only being sexual beings at the pleasure or for the pleasure of men. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hanging Out Forever podcast. My name is Asia Corinne, your host, and I'm not here with Grant today. Instead, I am here with founder Morgan Hewett, and I'm not going to tell you what she founded because I'm going to let her tell you what she's founding, okay? Go ahead, girl. Tell us all about yourself. Tell us what you're doing.
My name is Morgan, and I'm the founder of Devins Toys. Devins Toys is one of the world's first AI-powered vibrators. What that means is that it's a vibrator that has a bunch of sensors on it, predicts in real time if you're closer to or further away from the big you-know-what, and adjusts dynamically to help you to get a stronger orgasm. And then last but not least, it comes with an erotic audio companion. Imagine a really hot man or woman or whatever whispering in your ear, playing out all your fantasies with you, role-playing while you're using the toy.
Amazing. So we're about to get into it, y'all, because I'm super curious to know more about Devin. And I would like to start with, why did you name it Devin?
So it's actually a funny story. So the reason why it was named Devin is I wanted a unisex name for our shy girls.
Perfect.
Who maybe don't want to say explicitly that they're going home to use a vibrator. They could tell their girlfriends, hey, sorry, I'm actually going to go home early. I have a date with Devin, like wink, wink. And if you're in the know, you knew.
I love that, yeah.
But the funny story behind it is that I originally spelled it D-E-V-O-N, which is kind of like the black way. Yeah. So I was pronouncing it Devin, but then one of my girlfriends reminded me of a guy that I hooked up with years ago who, you know, one of those guys that you X out of your memory.
Please. Absolutely. I know. Constantly. I have a guy I have to constantly rebury over and over.
I was buried, but you never want to think about that person again.
Yeah.
And so one of my girlfriends reached out to me and said, oh my God, Morgan, I just can't believe that you would name your company after Devon. And I said, Devon? And she was like, that guy in Thailand? And I was like,
Thailand?
I was like,
okay. Side quest.
a little vacation fling with a guy who turned out to be kind of an asshole.
Okay.
Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah. Oh my God. You can curse, say orgasm, clitoris, whatever. This is like scientific, so it works.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it could also be a little bit sleazy, but that also worked.
Right. So then I panicked, and that became a $10,000 mistake because I had to reincorporate my company and spell it D-E-V-I-N and then rebuy like a new website, everything.
Right.
But now I really like the name Devin.
Oh my God, that's such a perfect name. And it's so interesting when I was doing my research on you and the technology behind Devin, I've never even considered having AI be a part of my sex toy experience.
Yeah.
And as somebody with a treasure chest, I'm not kidding. It's like this pink box. We got a bunch of stuff in there. I've never once thought, how could I incorporate AI into my sexual like experience for either of us, right?
Yes.
So how is it that you came across the idea of incorporating AI into a sex toy?
So I've used AI to do even harder things, even though like women's arousal, it's an interesting challenge. But my first company was called Options MD. I started that company when I was 26, sold it when I was 30, and we were using AI to better understand which medications suicidal patients would respond to. So we were taking people who were struggling with deep suicidal thoughts,
right,
and who were trying a bunch of antidepressants, none worked. And then finally we were using AI to have a breakthrough in their treatment plan and literally save hundreds of lives from suicide. Wow. And so that company was all about helping people to get over depression. But I have no clue if you suffer from depression. I have previously. But just because you're not depressed doesn't mean that you're actually happy or enjoying life. That's a whole different problem, right?
Right.
And so that then inspired me of how could I, in my next phase of life, use AI to help women have more joyful experiences. And so then there was a bunch of ideas that got, when you're in the ideation phase.
Right, of course.
But this was truly an industry that I feel like is one of the few left that has not been disrupted by AI.
Wow, that's a really good point.
And I would say it's one of the best because orgasms are so personal.
Right.
And the whole point of using AI is personalization.
Okay.
How can you have a unique experience to you? That's why when you're talking to ChatGPT, it's very different than if Grant's talking to ChatGPT. And with our orgasms, it's extremely personal and a subjective experience to me. And for the first time in history, on a device, we can now optimize the experience completely for your pleasure. And every time you use it, it can learn so that it can help you to achieve more and more pleasure every time you use it.
What do you think, and this just kind of popped into my head when we're talking about optimization of like sexual experiences. So this is a little bit of a sidebar, but what do you think about people being concerned with almost in a way kind of commodifying the orgasm, right? Or making it so that it's the type of experience that's no longer as analog or as organic. So are there any critiques where you have come across people being concerned about, oh, well, if you're programming your orgasm, are you truly actually able to enjoy yourself?
Yeah. So the critique that I've come across that's related to that is by using technology, are we taking away from orgasmic experiences that are between two partners in a loving relationship? And my pushback to that is that before technology, the majority of women actually weren't having that great of orgasmic experiences in human sex. So 75% of women cannot orgasm from penetration alone. If you're one of the 25%, like good for you, like that is so great. But most women cannot, right?
Okay.
And so already bringing in a tool, a vibrator, clitoral stimulation in general unlocks a whole new level of pleasure for most women. Then secondarily, and this is what I think that most women actually don't know, is that as women, unlike men, we can have varying strengths of orgasms. So just because you've unlocked a baby orgasm, like there's still more. Right. And also as women, we can have multiple orgasms. The best way to have the strongest orgasm during sex with your partner is to first have multiple orgasms on your own with a vibrator. It actually makes, like every time you have an orgasm, it can build and build and build on top of each other to have it more and more explosive. So anyways, I don't see it as adversarial as other people see. It's not an option of using a vibrator versus using or with your partner.
Right.
I actually think that having experience on your own, having more experiences on your own can actually unlock new pleasure in a traditional form of sex.
How does Devin allow women to explore unlocking new pleasure? I think that there is a barrier with women who want to enjoy their bodies because we are overly conditioned to only being sexual beings at the pleasure or for the pleasure of men, right? We're not typically allowed to or encouraged to explore our own sexual desires or like, masturbate alone or have orgasms that doesn't include a male partner. So how would you say that that's like a part of what Devin is about and how women can kind of dismantle their ideologies about shame around orgasming without a male, without, not for the male gaze or whatever? How would you walk them through that?
For so many of us, including myself, our first experiences with sex were actually watching pornography. And this is, my opinion. My opinion is that the majority of heterosexual pornography is geared towards a male gaze.
Right.
And even female orgasm is performed in a way to turn a man on. I'll give you a stupid example of this, is that because of porn, we associate a woman screaming like, like that with what an orgasm looks like. So then a lot of times us women, when we're in bed, we try to be very theatrical. And that's also what a man associates with, like, he did a good job, right? Whereas for some women, they may orgasm in silence. But then that's like freaks a guy out, and it turns
because they're not used to like the fanfare of it. That's such a good point. Yeah,
exactly. So my experience was when I was in my early 20s, I was always in a relationship, and so I learned about sex through experiences with those sexual partners. This is nothing to say about if they were good or bad, but I definitely felt a pressure to perform.
Right.
then it wasn't until I actually took a 4-year period of singlehood, which was transformative to me.
Right.
When I actually spent so much time alone, exploring my own self-pleasure, exploring different fantasies, exploring what an orgasm looked like and felt like when I actually was alone and I didn't have to perform for anybody. That's when I became in tune with my body. And now as somebody who's now in a hopefully healthy relationship, who knows if these relationships are ever that healthy, but hopefully healthy relationship, I would say I'm having more fulfilling sex than I've ever had in my life.
What was that time of singlehood for? Like, did you have any traumatic relationships that inspired you to be like, I'm done with men? Do you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, totally. So I like to, half joke, but half seriously be like, when I was younger, I dated with hardly any standards. And that meant that I always had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And there was something inside of me that was so afraid of being alone. And one of the benefits, but also curses of having parents who were happily married for all of my life is that to me, it always seemed like marriage and a relationship was the goal. Right. And so I was always trying to optimize towards that, even if it meant sacrificing myself, my self-esteem in the process of being in a relationship.
Yeah.
My last relationship that I had before I entered my period of first celibacy and then just overall singlehood was that it was a very toxic relationship. It was with somebody who put me down a lot, never made me feel good enough. I would actually say borderline emotionally abusive.
Right.
But finally I looked in the mirror and I said, okay, what is the common denominator here? Like, it's me, right? Looking back, every single toxic relationship that I've been in, frankly, there was red flags from the start that I ignored because I valued being in a relationship more than I did being by myself. So I had to face my biggest fear, which was being alone. And it was hell for the first few months. I was terrified being alone. I felt like a failure. But then I regained myself and I dated myself and I became the person that I am now.
What does dating yourself look like? I think there's a lot of women who aren't excited or they're nervous to date themselves. They're nervous to be seen alone. They're nervous to do like what they think is the corny stuff of buying themselves flowers and things like that. I actually think it's very empowering. So when you're talking about dating yourself, what did that look like for you?
I wanted, and I was working with a therapist at the time who told me that you need to prove to yourself that you can be your perfect boyfriend. As opposed to trying to date guys who weren't really my perfect boyfriend and frankly, just constantly getting disappointed by them and wanting them to be something else that I honestly couldn't even provide for myself. So she said, the first step to gain confidence is provide it to yourself. Let yourself know that you're capable of taking care of yourself before you expect somebody else to.
Right.
So I did that. So like what you just mentioned, I bought myself flowers on a weekly basis. I would draw myself bubble baths. I took myself on a solo trip. I would take myself to dinners. I went to the movies by myself, etc. The list goes on. And then the biggest thing that I did was actually starting to wear my favorite color every single day. And that's because, which is pink, obviously, I looked in my closet. Every single article of clothing reminded me of an ex.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I had one ex-boyfriend who told me that my skin color looked so good in red. So then I bought a bunch of red stuff. There was another boyfriend who told me that green really brought out my eyes. So I brought a bunch of green stuff. There was another boyfriend who liked me to look like a video vixen. So I had a bunch of slutty clothes. I had a different boyfriend who was like an older businessman. So I had a bunch of pencil skirts and what I thought a businessman. Anyways, it goes down the line.
Yeah.
It's stupid. But I was like, wait, what do I like to wear? You know, what does Morgan like to wear? And it turns out that I like to wear like very girly princess stuff. And so then that actually just became my personal brand and my personal style.
I love that. And I think it's so funny how much the technology behind Devin aligns with your personal experience, right? It's almost, and we'll get more into this, but I do want to mention that you have different categories of audio experiences that women can select. So I saw a few of them and some of them were like rough, right? Or bondage, I think might have been one of them. And so there's these different categories, which again, we'll get into in a second. But what I'm hearing is that you're allowing women to pick and choose their perfect man coming from a place where you were almost picking and choosing who you wanted to be for the men in your life. So you were tailoring your life experience to whatever the man was that you were aligning yourself with. So I think it's a really wonderful 180 for you to have empowered yourself and understood and look at your closet like, okay, this is no longer who I am. This is a reflection of who they wanted me to be. And now you've created an AI technology that gives women pleasure and access to pleasure and permission to enjoy pleasure in all these categories where they can select their perfect man. So now they're like the women in the closet deciding what they want to wear. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better. And one other thing that reminds me of that I do think is so important to say is that I think sometimes my story gets misconstrued of me doing all these things for myself so that I can find a man to do all those things for myself. Actually, once you start to take care of your superficial needs, which is like a roof over your head, financially providing for yourself, other things like that, then it actually takes away that power from a man where those things become less impressive. And I felt like then when I was dating, I actually was less superficial. Because I actually didn't care as much if you bought me an expensive bag. Like, it just didn't matter to me.
Right.
And I was actually more focused on a deeper emotional connection than I had been before.
I think that's really fascinating too, because, you know, I think a lot of women don't treat themselves to things. So then they're willing to accept whatever treatment they get from men. You know, I've done a lot of great things in my life. And so it makes me not impressed when a man wants to do something for me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
You think I couldn't do this for myself? You know, I'm one of those people.
Exactly.
But to get more into Devin, I don't think we've touched on yet that you are in Harvard Business School. So where did you start off going to college? What did you go to college for originally? And now you're back as a grad student, right?
Yeah.
In Harvard Business School. So walk us through that and then how it's been as a Harvard business student, right? Developing sex technology.
Yeah, so I went to school thinking that I was going to become a lawyer. I went to Columbia University. Then I realized that I actually hated reading. I think I'm probably like the only person who is at Harvard Business School who will actually admit that I hate reading.
Yeah.
I love podcasts.
Okay.
Like this one.
That's something, you know, like get a little Kindle. People say that's reading.
I listen to podcasts all day.
Okay.
I listen to my audiobooks. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I actually hate reading and I actually don't have that much attention to detail. So I would have made a terrible, terrible lawyer. And so then I wanted to do something more creative. So I started my career working in advertising at Meta. So running ads on Instagram and Facebook. And when I was there, I was friends with a lot of data scientists who were like early AI engineers before AI became cool. And they were using AI to optimize ads so that you would be more likely to click on an ad. And I thought, couldn't this technology at the time, so many people close to me were suffering from severe mental health issues, like severe depression. And so I thought, couldn't this technology also be used instead of optimizing ad performance to optimizing medications for some of the people that were close to me?
Right.
So that's what gave me the idea for my first company. And I learned so much about AI. But that company was even 5 years ago now when we first started. And now the technology is just so much better. So the product that I'm building with Devin, the technology didn't exist to do it well 2 years ago or even a year ago. So when you use ChatGPT, have you used it where you speak to ChatGPT? Have you ever done that where you have a conversation with ChatGPT?
Oh, like when they're talking back?
Yeah, when they're talking to you?
No, I've never done that. I'm scared. I don't want to be like, sometimes I'm mean to Chat. I'll be like, get out of your fucking head.
Like, don't have to talk back to
be
you.
serious. And so like she thinks that we're friends and I really don't like that she's adopted this like black scent. So I try to minimize how much like, how much she has access to my life. Cause she'll be like, I know that's right, girl. That's lit. Heard, queen. I'm like, we are not friends.
I'm done. Okay. So for the viewers of this podcast, if you talk to ChatGPT, or where they talk back to you, you're on voice mode, you probably have noticed that the latency, which is the time in between when you ask a question and it responds, is a lot faster. Even if you're texting with ChatGPT, have you noticed it that when it first came out, it would take a few seconds to respond, and now it's almost instant. So that's latency times. So if you're thinking about erotic audio using AI, it has to be really fast. Otherwise, it's going to turn you off. It takes it 5 seconds to respond, right?
Yeah.
And so the latency times weren't there a few years ago, even 1 year ago. But now the cost of computing has shrunk by 90%.
Okay.
And latency times have completely sped up, which then allows us to have what feels like really natural voice, as well as even two-way video conversations with AI beings.
Right.
And that unlocks the ability to have platforms like the ones that I'm building, like erotic audio using AI.
So walk us through Devin as an experience for somebody, right? So, oh my gosh, I purchased Devin. What are the steps? What made me purchase? What am I understanding about the product? How does the audio play a part in the overall experience of the orgasm as well?
So the reason why you purchase Devin is because you know that you are the type of woman who deserves to have a sensual experience that is all her own. I'm very much pro selfishness when it comes to sexuality for women.
Yeah.
So I just don't think that we get that opportunity enough. And so what you're doing, hopefully, is you're first off setting up your room environment to a way that feels really sexy to you. I like candles, but whatever it is. You're turning off the lights, and then you're turning on the vibrator. The first few times that you use the vibrator, it doesn't go into what I called self-driving mode. It actually is first in learning mode. So the first few times that you use it, you're going to actually try different vibration speeds. And then after you orgasm, you're going to give us feedback on the strength of your orgasm. Like, was it strong? Was it like a baby orgasm, big orgasm, etc.? So we can learn what vibration patterns you like. And also while you're using the vibrator, which has sensors on it, the erotic audio companion is also picking up from the sensors.
Okay.
So an example of this is that if you were having phone, I don't know if you've done this, but for me, I'm in a long distance relationship. So like if you're having phone sex with maybe your long distance boyfriend, he may do something that aches you out. Like maybe he does a grunt in a weird voice or like something, or he says something that he just took a fantasy too far. He got out of the fantasy, kind of icks you out, and you have to tell him like, babe, stop, like get back on track. This, you don't have to say that because he's actually picking up from the sensors. So immediately if you get icked out, your body has a biological response to that ick, and he knows. So he switches it up,
crazy.
Right?
Okay.
So what you're doing is you are starting off with a fantasy that you like. So maybe it's like your brother's best friend.
Yeah, hot. That's hot. Well, not my brother. My brother's gay. So all these people are gay. But I hear what you're saying.
Your straight brother's best friend or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. But what makes that experience better, and the reason why AI is important to be added to that experience is because now it can be personalized to you. So for example, saying your name, like your brother's best friend is saying like Asia, or like something about you. So one of my biggest insecurities with my body is that I'm flat chested. I wish I had bigger boobs, right? So if somebody was saying like, oh my God, I just love your voluptuous body, that would turn me off because I don't see myself as having a voluptuous body, right?
Okay.
But now the AI can actually learn about you and incorporate that into the role play so that you actually feel like you're having a connected sexual experience.
Okay. And the role play is, as you're saying, adaptive, right?
Yeah.
So I'm inputting this information in what way? I have Devin. It's talking to me in the ways that I like. It's an app,
yes,
right?
It's an app.
Okay.
So you're using it as an app. That app can be connected to any headphones that you want.
Got it.
So like how you're actually listening and communicating, for me, it's with AirPods, but anything that you want, or you could have it on speakerphone. And that app is also connected to the vibrator as well. So the feedback from the vibrator through the app is then going to the audio, and that's how it's a connected system between all three.
And in order for it to give me the experience I want, right, I have to input my data, as you were saying, where it's like, this orgasm on a scale of 1 to 10 was a 7. How do I communicate to it what I like? Like what kinds of voices I like, besides, the different categories, right? When I'm selecting the rough category, are there, I can't think of the word right now, but it's basically like, are there like hard stops? So anything you don't want Devin to mention, things you definitely do want Devin to mention. How do I answer the prompts, or does the app that's connected to the toy walk me through everything? So I'm filling out a survey almost first.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's 3 levels of customizations. When you first open the app, it asks you about yourself. So that is, for example, any physical attributes that you'd want us to be aware of, or your role play partner to be aware of. And by the way, it doesn't matter if those are really your physical attributes or not. Like,
Right. Yeah.
if you have a fantasy and you wish that you were the type of girl that had a fat ass, and you want the guy to be telling you like that you have I love your fat ass, even if you have a tiny ass, it doesn't matter. Whatever, it's fantasy. So it's, you get to decide what you want the AI to know about you, as well as what your boundaries are as well too.
Okay.
So we definitely are very much mindful of that. Then the second thing is the voice. So this is like the depth of the voice, the accent. I love Black French men. Like that's my favorite accent. And then the third thing is a scenario.
Got it.
The third thing is a scenario, and the scenario, like so many different options of scenarios. But also, even if you don't even want a role play scenario, like maybe you actually just want somebody breathing deeply or like checking on you. I don't know. Like it doesn't matter. The beautiful thing about it with AI is, in the same way that you can talk to ChatGPT about anything, we're using the same exact underlying technology.
Okay.
Just without the content moderation that ChatGPT has. We use open source models so that you're able to speak more erotically to it.
And open source models prevents there from being censorship. Is that what an open? I'm just not familiar with that is.
So we as a it allows us to put our own rules for censorship.
Okay, got it.
So for example, we as a company have a stance on certain things. For example, rules around like pedophilia, or like things like that.
Great, yeah.
To protect ourselves and like liabilities as a company, as well as to protect you as a user. It also allows us to store and lock down your data.
Okay.
So for example, if we were building on top of ChatGPT, then your data would also be going into ChatGPT. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which like, that's cool if you trust openly, but it could just be used for different things, for different corporations.
Data mining.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
So with Devin, I think a lot of people are weirded out about giving up their privacy, right? So if I'm putting all my information, I don't know, do you guys do age?
Yes.
Race, ethnicity, things like that?
No.
Or is it just age? Like what's your age?
So the only thing that we ask you to verify is that you're over the age of 18.
Okay.
Anything else is your choice. And it really, honestly, we actually really only care about it if you want it to be used in the role play situation.
Right.
So if you think that it's important from a role play perspective for it to know that you were older or younger, to know your age or to know your race,
Right.
then tell it to us. If not, we actually really don't care.
Okay.
So that's one thing that's different about us, and I would say other platforms. We don't really care about who you actually are. This is an opportunity for you to have an escape.
Right. Okay, great.
So you can be whoever you want to be. Whatever fantasy you have, you can play out.
So when people are concerned about, I'm giving my data to an AI company, you're basically mitigating that by saying, because you guys are, it said open source, right?
Yeah.
So you're developing your own tech around it. So their information is proprietary to your company. It's not being outsourced for other people to use. So it can't be like mined or bought or siphoned out by somebody else that's going to be sending them a bunch of emails, right?
We have policies in place to never sell your data. And also because we're a platform for one specific use case, whereas other platforms that have broader use cases, they have more incentives to use your data for other ways. So for example, like ChatGPT has been very open that they're launching advertising. Right. So like they're using that data for advertising. Also, most of the large LLM companies, they have consumer facing platforms. So that would be like Google Gemini and ChatGPT, but then they also have business facing APIs where businesses are using their APIs. So the data that you give to them as a consumer, they're actually storing and then they're actually using that and delivering that to their business clients.
Got it.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas for us, we don't have business clients. We don't have open APIs that other companies can use. We don't have advertising. We're not selling our data in any way, shape, or form.
I really appreciate that because you guys are really platforming pleasure and then protecting it as well. There's so many barriers around like women exploring pleasure where it's just like ad, spam, you need more, bigger orgasm here, you know, you need a car. So I think that it's really great that you have structured your business around prioritizing pleasure and that you have a commitment to that as well. And being that you are a Harvard grad, I wanted to ask you, has it been awkward developing sex technology at Harvard Business School? Because that's not the type of thing I imagine is on average coming out of Harvard Business School, and especially you as a Black woman as well. What has that experience been like?
Yeah, I'm so happy that you asked me about this. It's been really interesting. I'm so proud of myself, Asia, because my confidence has come so far the past few years. I don't think that I would have been able to do this company a few years ago. I think it would have gotten to me a little bit. But what I'm building, it rubs people the wrong way. So for example, I've received complaints that have apparently been sent to the the administration of Harvard Business School about me anonymously from other students, that they feel that what I am building is tarnishing the Harvard brand. The brand, which I would actually say that there's a lot that Harvard students can learn from the sex toy industry from a business perspective. So one thing that people don't know is that actually vibrators are some of the most profitable products on the market. Your average vibrator has 80 to 90% gross profit margins. 70% of American women own a vibrator. So literally vibrators are in almost every single household. To me, it's not a taboo product. Almost every single person has it. And companies that make sex toys are generating like really, really good cash flow and are very strong and resilient businesses. So to me, how I feel is we're here to learn about business. And so if I'm building a business that is legitimate, is profitable, and is not illegal in any nature, then why would I not be proud to build that business out of Harvard Business School?
How much of that do you feel like is compounded by you being a Black woman as well? Like, do you feel like you'd be facing as harsh of a critique if you were not Black woman?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably I wouldn't be facing as harsh of a critique. But the way that I see it is a little bit different, which is that Black students are so the minority at Harvard.
Right. Yeah. I would imagine.
Harvard got rid of was forced to get rid of affirmative action a few years ago. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. And as a result, the amount of Black students has plummeted at HBS and at Harvard. And so for me, how I feel is that I'm going to be the minority in any room that I walk into. People are going to stare at me. I'm going to be different. And so almost like doing a sex tape is like kind of, who cares? I'm already going to be different anyways. I may as well just do what I want. So in some ways, I'm actually appreciative of being Black because it makes me it has already taught me to just feel comfortable being different and being unique in a space. And so it's like, what's one more crazy thing on my track record?
That's very, very real. Wow. I've never really thought about it like that before. Being Black is already the hardest thing. Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. What type of conversations have swirled around at the school, right? So I know when we were kind of doing our front end talk, you were speaking about how you have certain professors who are not with it, or there's research that you've done where your investors are concerned if this makes men irrelevant.
Yes. So one professor begged me to do anything else with my degree, which is like, you're spending so much money on this degree. Your last company literally saved lives. You could do anything else. Why this? And I would say, I wouldn't say vibrator specifically, but the notion of learning about my own pleasure, taking care of myself, kind of this idea of self-freedom, that's actually what saved my life, right? Like, I'm such a happier, more joyful person. And And choosing to learn about myself and my body was a huge part of my healing journey. So to me, there's like nothing more rewarding that I could do. And there's nothing better that I could do for other women. And also on a weekly basis, I get a letter from a sexual assault survivor saying, I'm so excited to use Devin because I have wanted to re-explore my sexuality. And this vibrator that will kind of have a mind of its own and actually kind of really feel like I'm having sex with a lover, as well as being able to hear a man's voice and talk to a man erotically and practice that will help me to feel comfortable again with my sexuality and may give me a fighting chance at having a real relationship one day again. So I think that what I'm building is amazing. Then the second thing is, listen, the vast majority of VC investors are men.
Right.
About 85% to 90% of VC investors are men. So the thing that like irks me the most is people thinking that this is a niche market or that the total addressable market, which is a startup term, basically how big could this business end up getting, is small.
Right.
When I'm like, almost every woman has one of these toys, right? It's a huge total addressable market. Or secondarily, just thinking that there's not a big enough financing market. So my answer to that is let's prove them wrong. And so that's why I launched a pre-sale campaign for my company in order for customers to be able to show their support. So all you have to do is spend $1 to reserve one of your Devin vibrators. But what it helps is it shows investors your interest in the product. And then I can use that to go and actually, get money to fundraise to really bring this product to market in a big way.
When you are approaching these investors, have they expressed any concern about being men? And because one of the things that we spoke about was this is going to make us irrelevant, like whatever. So I want to get into that. So I think that there are a lot of men who find insecurity in women exploring their own pleasure. And I want to even say, like, maybe at the beginning of my relationship, we kind of had to reintroduce toys because I've always been into that type of thing. And there are a lot of men who aren't ready to go down that rabbit hole, right? And there are a lot of men who are just totally turned off by it because they feel like a woman's source of pleasure should only be derived by what he as a man is bringing to the table, which is just like his body, his dick, his voice, his stroke game, whatever, right?
Yes.
So have you come across any men criticizing you for creating something that they feel would be competition to them, essentially?
Yeah. So definitely male investors, some male classmates, even though honestly the vast majority of my classmates, as well as even many of my professors, have been supportive. But a few of them have said, hey, let's play out the tape. If your company is super successful, we already feel like men are struggling with the male loneliness epidemic. We already feel like men are struggling to find women to date them. And with your product, these women will have no use for us whatsoever. And my response is, wow, like if you really think that a little toy can replace the entire value that you generate, then maybe you're not generating enough value. Yeah. Maybe you need to go back to the drawing board and think about what you're really bringing to a relationship. Clearly, you're not bringing emotional support. Clearly you're not being supportive of her career and her ambition. Clearly you're not making her laugh and like all these other things. Because if so, why would you be so intimidated by a toy? And then also, like, even if you're just worried about sex, we statistically know that a woman is much more likely to orgasm during penetrative sex if she has already orgasmed by a toy first. So any guy, if you're afraid of Devin, what you should actually do is buy a Devin for your girl, let her go by herself, do her little thing for 15 minutes, and then tell her to like come get you when she's ready. Right, yeah. Ding. And she's already warmed up. And you'll have like the easiest, most awesome sexual experience that you probably have ever had with her.
Amazing. So would Devin be able to be used as a supplemental toy? Like you're kind of going through whatever the fantasy that you've selected and your man is in the room and you guys, the three of you are getting it on.
With the toy? Yeah.
Is that possible? So this is the 4th episode I brought up threesomes. I gotta chill. I gotta really chill. I talk about it all the time.
Maybe you need a threesome.
I bring it up all the time. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes.
So you can actually, so this is the most amazing part about AI is that the technology is so flexible.
Okay.
So yes, you could act out, you could have like it on speakerphone, right? And both you and your boyfriend are having sex, and then you have a third party's voice that's also role playing a threesome with you. Definitely. The other thing that we built the vibrator in a way where you guys, if you don't want to use AI and if you don't want to use the voice companion, you don't have to.
Oh, amazing.
Like this vibrator, even without any AI, is truly the best vibrator that you will ever use.
Mm-hmm. And
it's a rabbit vibrator.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask.
It has external stimulation on the clitoris. The internal part also vibrates as well as thrusts as well too. You don't have to have it on thrusting mode. It's very like you can choose and customize which mode it's on, but the vibrator itself is banging without turning on anything. So even if you just wanted to use a vibrator while you're with your boyfriend, whatever, you can. So I've intentionally built the product in a way where it's very flexible and has multiple modes.
Wow. I think that there's so much care that has gone into creating this product, and that's very clear just from the different categories that you have selected for like the audio experience of it. And one of the things that we had spoken about previously was women's husbands being insecure, right? And how can they be involved? And so we're kind of coming off the topic of having a threesome, but also incorporating male involvement, which
this is a funny story.
We should draw the line. Men don't always have to be involved in everything.
This is a funny story. Yeah. So thank you for reminding me of that, because this always makes me laugh. So I've had multiple husbands who've reached out to me and have said, hey, I would buy this product if I could clone my voice to be in it so that when my wife is using it, she's hearing my voice. And actually the technology is there to do it. We can actually easily, if you ever want to freak Grant out, you can clone his voice. I did that with my boyfriend. I cloned his voice and I had a conversation with him, a very loving conversation. And he got so freaked out because I was on the conversation being like, love you, babe, miss you. And his voice was telling me back. And then my boyfriend heard it and he goes, babe, I'm so sorry that I've been unavailable. Like, I just want you to know you can call me anytime you want. You don't need to call AI Stanley. My boyfriend's name is Stanley. Like, you don't have to talk to AI Stanley. You can talk to me.
I love that. Yeah.
But anyway, so the technology is there. So I actually I responded to the husband saying, hey, actually, we technically could do that, but can I talk to your wife?
Right.
They have been married for over 30 years. Can I talk to your wife? Let me just see what she thinks about it. So I have a private conversation with the wife, and the wife goes, I have been hearing his voice in bed for 30 years. You think that when I'm masturbating, I want to listen to his voice? And she goes, but I would love for the technology to exist. We allow him to go through the experience of cloning his voice. Let him think that I'm listening to his voice every time. But please, I just want to listen to something that sounds like Idris Elba.
Okay. Good selection. How do you get the access to cloning certain voices? Obviously, there has to be some sort of permission given,
For
right?
clarity, that's not going to be in the version 1. Version 1 doesn't have voice cloning. But what I'm saying is that the technology is actually there. And so now, I mean, you guys comment on this podcast if you think if you want to clone your husband's voice and have it in the Vibrate experience, let me know. Maybe we'll move it up to V1.
Right.
But there's actually a lot of third-party AI companies that do voice cloning that have APIs, meaning that you can incorporate it into apps like mine.
Okay.
If you want. But I will send it to you after this.
Yeah.
Like, it's only 15 seconds that you need of a person's voice.
So scary.
But this is why there's a lot of scams.
Yeah.
This is why you need everybody watching this, you need a code word with your person.
Right.
Because somebody could just clone their voice and then use that to call you and get secure info from you.
And there's no legality around cloning voices, right? So if I did want to hear, I don't know, I always go to Channing Tatum. I don't know what's wrong with me. That's the first person I can think of. So if I'm like, oh my God, Channing Tatum, how is there?
I don't know if the laws have caught up with it.
Right. So
I'm thinking of at least it should be illegal.
I agree. Like if they haven't signed something for people to just openly use their image or their audio, their voice technology, whatever it is, then there should be like, I feel like that, because I'd be terrified if somebody was like, I'm going to use Grant's voice or Asia's voice. You know what I mean? But
think about it. Online
like
people
separate.
probably are already repurposing your content, right?
Yeah. I think about that a lot. I do think about that. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So there seems to be an insecurity right? Around like we kind of went off for a second, but there seems to be an insecurity with men around women exploring their own pleasure without them. And we talked briefly about the male loneliness epidemic, which everybody has a gripe with the male loneliness epidemic. I have a big problem. It's like, you wouldn't be lonely if you kind of didn't suck, right? And I find it very interesting that men will blame women for things that men are not receiving because of how men are acting, right?
Yes.
So women are being blamed for declining birth rates, when really, are there any men out here who want to be eligible fathers, who are providers, who are eligible bachelors, who want to be present in a woman's life besides just having a baby with her? And it's the same thing with sexual partners. There's a lot of men who are like, we're not able to have sex with women, but that has a lot to do with how you're presenting yourself to women. Do you feel as though Devin is going to help women in the dating sphere? That's something that I feel like we've seen on your website, right? Is like it allows women to become more empowered and make better choices in dating. How do you feel like those things align?
Yeah. So I think that there's no AI or technology that can replace the best of human relationships. It's just not there yet. Do I think that technology, and I'm not even just talking about my company, but AI in general, because there's so many AI companionship companies, AI friendship companies, AI boyfriend companies, etc. Do I think that those can actually replace shitty human relationships? Yeah. Do I think that maybe they should? Yeah. But it's not even about the AI. In general, I strongly believe that as a woman, it is better for you to be alone. And this is what I found in my own season of singlehood. It was my life was 100% better when I was single and by myself than when I was in shitty relationships. Okay. So I think that a woman should stay single as long as she can or wants to. And maybe she never wants to be in a relationship again. That's her prerogative. Or until she finds a relationship that actually adds value to her life. And I think the secret that many people who really focus on the male loneliness epidemic don't admit to is that like relationships were bad for a lot of women. And they were helpful. So I'm sure you probably have heard these stats before, maybe you haven't, but married men live longer, earn more. Are healthier, are happier than single male counterparts. And all those stats reverse for the average married woman. The average married woman lives less, makes less money, is less satisfied with life, has higher rates of depression, has higher rates of cancer. Like all of that shit is heightened for the married woman. And so single women actually do better and live happier, healthier, more flourishing lives than your average married woman. I, though, think that women who are in healthy, happy marriages have the best outcomes, but that's just not the majority of marriages, right? And so our goal as a society should not be to seek marriage for the sake of marriage. And it should be about meeting women where they are, which is if they're single, giving them amazing tools like Devin to flourish in their singlehood. Or frankly, even if they are married, to also give them escape in the same way that married men have their tools to escape too. To give them a escape so they can have just like a little slice and something for themselves.
Yeah. And it's so funny that when women have sex toys, men are concerned about becoming irrelevant versus men who the sex toy industry was totally built around originally.
Literally,
you know, they have so much access, but women have never been concerned with becoming irrelevant. I feel like women's fear around men engaging in sex toys or consuming sex worker content is that it desensitizes him to what her personal needs are. And so then it becomes like a one size fits all, like we were speaking about earlier, where because men aren't having these real interactions with women, they think sex is supposed to be theatric. So women's concern for men who engage in sex becomes about their expectations of sex that are becoming warped because of their access to pornography. But I don't feel like women are ever worried like, oh my God, he's never gonna want a woman. We read a listener letter, unfortunately for her, like 2 weeks ago, and her husband was addicted to porn and bought all these sex toys and like bought sex dolls and all these things, but was still being like, have sex with me every single day, like 3 times a day.
Damn.
So it's just not, it's a false equivalence, I think, for men to be
Wanted her
concerned.
to have sex with him 3
They were
times
still
a day.
having sex. I have to send you the link. It was a crazy story. It was a crazy story. But
How did she have time to?
she was a
do
stay-at-home mom.
other stuff?
She gave up her career for him. I know, it was really sad. But she left him.
Yeah.
Good for you, queen. That's what we said. We're like, so speaking of women, when you came up with Devin, what kind of market research needed to be done to find out that this was a product that women had a desire for? And how did you identify what your demographic was? And how did it expand?
Yeah. So I'm not the first person to think of the concept of an AI powered vibrator. I don't think that that's a unique concept. And there frankly are other women who've done like incredible work paving the way, and have like tried to build this product. But I don't think that like the tech things that I mentioned before, the latency times, the quality of artificial intelligence was really there to have what felt like a natural experience. And women, our bar is a little bit higher. Right. So frankly, a lot of the AI porn sites that were generated for men, I would say were pretty low quality, but I think that men will like get off on anything.
You see all those compilations? You ever seen compilation porn? Who could that possibly be for? What psychopath is watching comp porn? You get 10 seconds of one couple or whatever, and it moves on for 5 minutes. It's chaos. Those people need to be in jail. Imprison them. Anyway, identifying your market. So when you were doing the research around Devin, especially from your own personal experiences, how did you identify the age demographic? And since developing Devin, have you seen things that you didn't quite expect from women who are curious about your product?
Yeah. So I think like most founders, you just start building something that you and your friends would think were cool, you know, or that you guys would use. And so originally I was building for women like me, so women in their 30s and women who already were using technology to optimize all their other parts of health. Like I wear my Apple Watch, I wear my Oura Ring, like all that stuff. And so I was building for the woman who is already taking care of herself, in her 30s, working hard in her career, wanting to optimize a lot of areas of her life, and then maybe also wanting to have better sexual experiences on her own. What I've learned, and this is through social media, and so you guys, please follow me and comment on my stuff, because so many of my posts, I actually directly ask for product feedback. Or if I'm thinking about new ideas, I just ask the ether of the internet. And what I realize is that there's a huge craving of this from women who are actually already married or in relationships. What I think that is, and what certain women have communicated that is to me, is especially the mothers who feel like so much of their life is about taking care of other people. They just want to have a moment to themselves. And like sometimes they feel a little bit overwhelmed of life and they just want to go into a complete fantasy world just for 30 minutes, like maybe a few times a week, right? Where they can escape. And so that has been one of the biggest learning for me is I'm not forgetting about you moms.
Hell yeah. There are so many older women, I think, who are looking for something like this. And earlier we had spoken about postmenopausal women or women who are having a difficulty reconnecting with their long-term partner or husband. How have you seen from the feedback that you've gotten, even in just the interest, right, that this could change that dynamic?
Yeah. So there was a woman who is in her late 50s who she told me something that I thought was amazing, but also funny. She said that when you're young and when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you can go all night long. And then when you're in your 50s, it may take all night to get you going.
Real.
So the reason why she signed up for a pre-sale is that she was just she's looking for something that is a unique experience that can turn her on in a different way. And she wants to explore different fantasies because now that her hormones have changed, and also just that she's in a different phase of life, different erotic scenarios to fantasize about are just different. And so she wants something where she can actually play around with it and try different ways. and to just re-engage with her own sexuality and see what turns herself on. And then she's married. So then hopefully later be able to better communicate that to her husband.
Yeah. I find that people who are in long-term relationships, especially, honestly, women.
You're in a long-term relationship.
Right. Yes, that's true. Me, people like me. That a lot of people have a really difficult time being able to express their sexual desires to their partner, especially when they've been in a long-term relationship or a long-term marriage, whatever it is, because they're like, oh, well, I didn't ask for this at first. And so it'd be weird for me to ask for it now. And I'm such a big supporter of platforming your own pleasure and not being afraid to ask for what it is that you want. And I think that Devin is going to be such a great tool for women to learn what it is that they want. There's so many people who are scared to even think about something outside of a vanilla box because they don't understand what that says about them. And people have a hard time reconciling who they are when they're in role play or when they're in kink or when they're in a fantasy mode with who they are outside of that, because they carry a lot of shame over into the real world of what they're into in the bedroom. And I think that for people who are trying to open themselves up to new opportunities and new experiences, Devin is a really amazing gateway for that, because you have so many different fantasy categories. Could you name like your top 5 fantasy categories or the top most popular ones?
Yeah. So we are pre-launch. So I'll just tell you my favorite categories. I'm interested in anything that has a power dynamic change to it. It actually doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be me more powerful, the other person more powerful, but like I personally am attracted to anything that is about 2 people with very big power dynamic difference. So that might be like professor student, boss secretary, like anything like that. I've noticed myself that the more powerful that I become in my career, the more that I fantasize about being in a very powerless role.
Yep.
Or for example, the more that I lean into being a CEO, the more that I have a fantasy about like just being a secretary, right? And that's one thing that's been a learning lesson to me, because I think sometimes we feel embarrassed to communicate our sexual fantasies because we feel like it says something about us in the real world. But actually, typically it doesn't. Like typically, honestly, what you're attracted to from a fantasy scenario is almost very opposite of what you are in the real world. For example, a lot of women who actually are like the sweet, like wouldn't even kill a fly. They fantasize about very violent situation, very physically aggressive situations. And it doesn't mean that, oh, they're hiding this crazy violent monster inside.
Right. Yeah.
It actually has nothing to do with that. It's like a lot of times you fantasize about the forbidden fruit, like the exact opposite of what you truly are.
Right. We were speaking about this off camera a little bit earlier, but one of my client friends, she is a pro dominatrix.
Yes.
And she has a lot of very powerful clients who are like high in the CEO ranks of whatever big businesses, athletes and things like that. And a question that she receives a lot is, why do these men come to you to be dominated? And it's similar to your exact experience, is being somebody in power can be draining. And so I want to relinquish my power to somebody that I trust. And going back to the technology behind Devin, I think that that's definitely going to allow women to relinquish their power when they feel like they're on all the time. Exactly. And a lot of women have especially in today's social, climate, people are constantly talking about wanting a submissive woman. So there is an aversion to women in general to want to be submissive in any way or to explore submissiveness in the bedroom because of how it's been used in our like social media climate, right? So it becomes almost repulsive to think about yourself as a submissive woman. But with technology such as yours, you're able to explore that without feeling bad about yourself and figuring out what your boundaries are as well. Yeah. I think that there's so much consent revolving around your product that's part of what makes it sexy. Is I'm giving this AI technology permission to talk to me in this way, or to say these things to me, or to call me this name, right? And people don't really put a lot of emphasis on how attractive consent is, and also being able to communicate and outline your boundaries while being able to like explore. Exactly. So I just think that you're very fascinating.
And also exploring in a way, and this is for people who are in relationships, exploring in a way that doesn't offend your partner. So another common fantasy that women privately write to me about is cheating on their husbands or cheating on their boyfriends, right? Which, by the way, I think that every person who's ever been in a relationship has fantasized about cheating on their spouse. I'm just going to say it. I think it's like this weird thing that we act as taboo. But I think there's a lot of partners you can't tell them, hey, I don't actually want to cheat on you, but tonight, can we just pretend that I'm cheating on you? And so sometimes it is just a safer way to act it out, get it out of your system, and then you can go back to your happy married life. Yeah. And so I'm not a proponent of cheating, but I think that it could, and for me sometimes, like I think that it can actually be a healthy escape to act out those fantasies in a way that is contained, safe, not actually transgressive, alone in your own bedroom.
So for the future of Devin, do you see this scaling as a larger business outside of just the one product? Would you have multiple SKUs that do other things? Similar to like, there's the Rose, which is its own thing. Would you have something that's a little bit more condensed as like a solo tool that's outside of the AI model?
So the way that the product is engineered, we do need something that is inside of you. Because that's what's sensing your arousal. You can't really sense it from inside. Because it's like your body is heating up and that's giving us signals that then we take into account for the arousal algorithm.
Okay.
So it'll always have an internal stimulation, but the actual shape of it, the size of it, will definitely have different SKUs for different girls who like different things.
Amazing.
I have some friends who are size queens.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Shout out to the size queens. And then my last few questions are, what is something that has been very surprising to you learning about yourself throughout the developmental process of Devin?
That I don't give a fuck about what people think about me.
Period.
I don't give a, I really only care about the woman that I'm serving. And if not, I really don't give a fuck what you think about it at all. Like if you're not in my target audience, my target market of a customer, I don't care.
Have you been receiving like hate comments and things like that?
Yeah, for sure.
And how do you filter those out?
I don't read that. Like I started reading it once and I just realized that there's no use to this.
Yeah.
Because it's just distracting. It's totally distracting me from my mission. And so I've learned that I'm even more strong and badass than I thought that I was.
Hell yeah. I love that answer, girl. What do you feel like is misunderstood about women's pleasure? And how is Devin addressing that in the space? I'm sure we've talked about it, but if you could just one-line it or just sum it up, essentially.
I think that there's a lot of medical researchers who are trying to find objective standards to measure women's arousal, which theoretically makes sense, but I'm not sure if it's possible, because an orgasm is so subjective. It's so subjective. And so I was speaking to a different woman the other day, and she was asking me, how do you really, truly, objectively measure an orgasm? And if you ask medical researchers, they would give you a bunch of answers. What I would say is actually for the product that I'm building, I actually really don't care having an objective measurement. All I care about is, did you think that you orgasm?
Right.
Did you have a good time? And then we're going to actually personalize and build the algorithm off of that baseline, right? So I actually don't care if there's a certain medical standard of did you orgasm. All I care about is, did you feel like you had a good time?
Right.
So Devin is not a medical product. It's not going to be FDA approved. It truly is just for your pleasure. You are going to be giving the product feedback as you use it, and it will be better and better and better at bringing you a pleasurable experience, however you interpret that to be.
So go ahead and put your pre-orders in. I know that you guys want some. I'm going to get me mine. Is there anything that we didn't get to that you definitely wanted to share?
What I wanted to say is, Asia, thank you so much for honesty that you've brought to this space about your ups and downs in your relationships.
Appreciate
As
that.
somebody who's kind of newly, a year into a relationship, watching you and Grant and going through ups, going through downs, coming back together, it took the pressure off of me to try to have a perfect relationship. And also it made me want to just have more fun and relax in my relationship. When I see you guys just laughing together, cackling, having a great time, singing some of your intros. So anyways, that's all I wanted to say is thank you.
Oh my God. I really appreciate that. Like, you know, that's the whole reason we started the podcast is I felt like we were going crazy because everybody else seems so happy all the time. Why are we fighting? And so it really means a lot to hear people, especially in person, tell us how our podcast has impacted them. And that's really the point of everything is we want to take the pressure off. Like there's going to be bad days, there's going to be good days. And we're trying to help people have a roadmap to get through it. And so it's just so amazing to hear that it's been impactful for you, girls. We do be sending our intros. Did you hear us do the Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, it's so incredible to hear. And I'm so happy to have had you here in the studio with us today. By the way, guys, Morgan is all the way in Boston?
Cambridge, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's where Harvard is?
Yeah.
Oh, no, girl. I didn't do Ivy League. I went to a regular college. I went to a CSU, actually. But we're in LA, and Morgan came out here to be on our podcast today. And then
It's amazing.
Also,
Yeah.
like, meeting with the investors too, because girl got to get the coin. So we're so happy that you were able to come out. This was such a phenomenal interview and like learning so much about you, your background at Harvard and understanding the technology behind Devin. I really think that it is a tool that's going to unlock women being able to explore pleasure in ways that they never even thought were possible. And I think that there's a few things like porn that are very awkward for women to even engage in. So you breaking that boundary down and making it palatable for people who are nervous about exploring different things, I think is the perfect gateway to women actually re-owning their pleasure and not just being seen as pleasurable beings or beings used for pleasure. So shout out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, y'all. So we've come to the part in the podcast where we are ready to share with you guys some relationship advice. This is something we did all the time in our original podcast, and we're trying to bring it back. So Morgan here is going to share some relationship advice to you guys. Go ahead, girl.
Always come first. Use your toy before, ladies, and trust me, having sex with your man will be the most explosive experience ever. But take care of yourself first.
I love it. I'm going to actually build off of that relationship advice. Women, there's so many times where you're asked to settle in the bedroom. Why? No more. First of all, you guys are going to want to learn things about your body and then communicate those things to your partner. It might be awkward. It might be very hard to do, but you just have to find that middle ground in a way that he understands it as well. So you have to be kind of delicate sometimes, depending on who your partner is, when you want to convey to them that you want to try something different and approach that kindly. That's the best advice I can kind of give is like men have a very fragile ego around that type of thing. So try to approach it with as much care as possible, but also understand that you are drawing a line in the sand and you're trying to, as she said, come. I don't think I've ever said that on a podcast, so this is very different for me. Prioritize your sexual health, your sexual exploration, and your sexual well-being, as well as your mental and physical well-being. Ladies and gents, I hope the men were listening to this too. Stop being intimidated by toys. You are absolutely the best. This was the most fun podcast I've ever done. Sorry, Grant. I really appreciate having you, girl.
Thank you. Me too.
All right, y'all. We'll catch you later, besties.